Last year, the cannabis market grossed $12 billion in revenue. I'm watching the culture and language shift around it. How did cannabis move from side streets to Wall Street?
Marijuana is the most dangerous drug in the United States.
I think he believes we ought to legalize marijuana. I don't. I think that'd be a big mistake.
3 strikes and you are out.
When did something oh so dangerous become allegedly so safe? Cannabis is undergoing a deep rebrand. But it is doing what cannabis has always done, bringing people together. It's the intersection where soccer moms and urbanites link up. I remember just yesterday when we were fishbowling in cars. Now today we're watching them pop open these weed bars. Med to Rec has opened up a cannabis frontier like no other. I want to examine the social impact, the culture, and those that are pushing transformation forward. Welcome to the world of loud. David has created a space, refined yet chill and eclectic, for people from diverse backgrounds to link up, enjoy great conversation, excellent service, and a great place to explore food and fuse cannabis. He is changing the food space to include cannabis as a key ingredient, transforming the way people perceive and talk about our beloved plant, food and health, occupying his space in the loud room.
We're gonna have 2 different kinds of salmon. So the first is standard portion loin. So we're gonna poach this. So the reason we're putting it in plastic is we want the heat to be gentle.
Okay. Is your kitchen always this quiet when you're cooking?
Definitely not. There's always music on.
What are your go-to jams?
If we have a lot to do, it's usually 9 Inch Nails or something pretty heavy. I can go for anything, actually. Jazz is like a good, slow setting. Longer, but no stress. I think when 9 Inch Nails comes on, it's move your ass and get a lot going.
Well, we're here in the kitchen and we're waiting for this. What came first, the pot or the stove?
Cooking was definitely first. I grew up in a house where both my parents cook really well. Not professional, but you know, my mother cooked a lot of home style kind of American food, but she would do it from scratch. So there was always something going. So first course, we're gonna make a salmon rillette. And this is seasoned with a little bit of cannabis flour, a little bit of lime zest. A rillette is traditionally a dish, a protein that's cooked in its own fat. Okay. Can't really cook anything in fish fats, doesn't really work, especially with the salmon. So we're gonna substitute some creme fraiche in there to kind of give it that mouthfeel, that creaminess. My dad is Persian, so he was cooking dishes where he'd be salting eggplant on the counter for 2 days at a time, right? And like patting, like always something intriguing. And Persian food in general is, you know, shared, is family style. And when dishes are shared, they're usually a long, slow cook process. So something braised, something kind of stewed, eaten over rice. So you smell it all day. You'll smell it the day before. And in fact, it's usually made a day or 2 in advance so that it can cool down and sit and the flavors can kind of marry in the fridge. Keep cooking for a few. I used to watch the Traveling Chefs of Europe on PBS prior to the Food Network, so I was a weird kid. You know, my mom bought me, when I was 9, she bought me a kit on how to make bubble gum, and I ruined one of her favorite pots, which she still reminds me of today. Having Middle Eastern food, then switching over to Southern food, you know, Kentucky's a good mix. I mean, it is the middle of the country, it's not actually the South, but it's the South to a lot of people up here. But had a just wide variety, and my best friend growing up was Japanese, so I was lucky to eat some pretty wild things and just be open. We're gonna kind of unroll these. So the easiest way to do it, actually, you can probably slice these ends off. Just go through it. And that'll allow me, so you can kind of see that, yep. So then you can actually just squeeze this right into here. Basically what we're doing is we're getting this further to the bottom because we're gonna add some smoke to the top, and we wanna have plenty of airspace up there for that to take place. So we turn it all the way low.
So it's like a bowl.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get it lit.
It's getting lit.
Yeah. We basically just want to get it captured in a jar. That's it. I didn't really start smoking, I think until I was 14. I think it was my first. Yeah, and you know, I had two older brothers that were definitely ahead of me in that regard, and had a lot of access to it. And Kentucky's a big state for outdoor grow, you know, especially then. I mean, Kentucky skunk was definitely, and still is, you know, revered for its terps. But I think, you know, for me, it was real casual. It was sneaking away, smoking a joint, going to the school football game. You know, it was super funny. You know, we were playing Nintendo 64, 007, something, you know, super lighthearted. And I think not until later in life I really was able to view it a different way. And I think, you know, having been a chef and cooking that whole time, when that time approached, it was just easy to merge cannabis in as another ingredient. So a lot of these dishes are things that I've cooked in different formats, different iterations, changed it, you know, year after year. And now we present those same things to people when they come to our events.
So tell me more about your cuisine, your style. What separates you from the next guy?
You know, I think everyone's experiences separate them from the next person. I think,
cheers.
You know, cheers. I think, you know, my heritage is certainly a big part of it, right? Like growing up eating these different foods, you know, brings awareness to different ingredients and how to utilize them. You know, even the zucchini in this, eggplant is very similar. And again, you know, my dad cooked a lot of that when I was growing up, so I was always familiar with that. I think experiences are really what set people apart. You know, culinary school is a big part of being a chef to some people, and to others it means nothing, right? Like you can only learn so much out of a book, right? You can only learn so much in a school setting. Until you feel the pressure, until you feel embarrassment, until you feel failure in front of your peers, you don't really change what you're doing or grow. And so, you know, we've had kids come in and their resumes are saying, hey, I went to this school and this, and it's like, great, let me watch you break down a fish, right? And they can't do it. And you know, they should probably get a refund, but at this point, it's like, well, let's actually show you and, you know, lose that ego and realize that everyone in the kitchen has an important role. So you're not better than anybody else. What I feel separates me is just that understanding that you're part of a team. You can't do anything on your own, knowing that at some point you're going to need help. So you just kind of open with that and put that out so that the energy comes back. Michelin's a rating system, born in France, really focused on quality of the restaurant in a holistic sense. So front of the house, wine list, service, steps of service, to the food, of course. Everything from, if you drop your napkin on your way to the bathroom, is it back folded? Is a fresh napkin back folded before you come back? Like there's these little things that kind of go into getting 3 Michelin, which is the top. There's a lot of 1 Michelin star restaurants, which helps the restaurant market, right? It helps, they're able to attract a lot of people to come see them, and it really means that they're striving for something different. So as you go up the ladder, you know, you go to 2 stars, that's between 2 and 3 stars. A lot of restaurants go back and forth. Some year they're 3, some year they're 2, and it's rated by people that are totally under the radar, use fake names, come in. Sometimes they're actually in disguises. It's like Pink Panther stuff. I worked for a chef named Jean-Georges in Minneapolis. He was at one point the youngest chef to have 3 Michelin stars. His team really set kind of that next level of standard. That restaurant changed ownership in 2009. Our team kind of dispersed. I applied for a job in Hong Kong and somehow landed it, and that was a 2 Michelin star restaurant, 16th best restaurant in the world in 2009, 22nd in 2010. That was 17, 21, 25 courses. What's called Amber. Chef there, Richard Ekibis, has a wild history and, you know, just a big name. And so working for him and that whole team, you learn a lot. And I think if you can survive in a restaurant like that, if you don't get fired, right? If you don't quit, having that on your resume is huge. But really, it's really the best way to grow. You know, when I was diagnosed with Crohn's in 2011, I started going through different treatments, lots of giving blood, lots of tests, lots of colonoscopies, lots of endoscopies, you know, different things that were happening with my body, and I would be taking a medication that would work for 6 months, then something would fail and I'd move on to the next one, but each medication came with new side effects. My 2 cousins, Justin and Freya, were always pushing me to look into plant-based healing and really, you know, find different ways as a lifestyle, like how something could come in and modify that, and Justin in particular was pushing for cannabis, and I never really viewed it as an option. I felt like what I had was too serious for something that could really heal it, and so I think going through a few medications and ending up on one called Remicade, it was the first one where the side effects were so drastic that I was just like, all right, I have to find something else. I don't want to take this for the rest of my life. I need to find other options. And started, you know, looking into cannabis a little bit more, called my cousin and started just, you know, he's always reading something and has, you know, information and depth in a lot of these fields, and he made a few suggestions and I looked into it, and then I ended up moving to Massachusetts in 2016 for grad school, and that was kind of the first moment where I was like, all right, it's legal here. I have one of the diseases at the time where it was med, you know, I can get a card and start one of the dispensaries. I went into a dispensary and every option, edible-wise, was candy, was high fructose corn syrup, food coloring, stuff that I don't eat anyway. I didn't want to have to eat cannabis for that. So that was kind of the first moment of, I have a background in cooking, I should start making my own. So we saw it, you know, as a win and an opportunity, and felt that we had the background to kind of push forward with it. And so we've just been making, you know, different edibles since. And personally, I found a lot of the things that I was using. I also started dabbing right around this time in 2017. And that was the biggest thing for me that took away any kind of symptom from Crohn's disease. So once that started happening, I made a decision to try to move away from all synthetic medication. June 18th, 2018 was the last time I took one. So I'm in remission, and we don't pretend that that's going to work for everyone. That's not what we're saying at all, but we do know that it's possible. And you know, the other path from what I was being told by the doctors was that if Remicade didn't work, they were going to cut me open, cut out a portion of my intestines, and reattach them.
Surgery.
And I'm not having that. Yeah, unless that's forced. So, and I've heard it's a very rough thing to go through.
In other cases where people have made the traditional baked brownies.
Sure.
Whereas they've infused the weed with the butter already, and now they've thrown it exactly.
How many times have you heard someone say they had a wild experience off an edible? Well, oftentimes they don't know how strong it was, and they don't know what they were eating, and that's a big part of it, is being able to communicate that. So I think from our side, yeah, I mean, you can do it that way. It certainly works, and is effective. It won't kill it, but it's definitely modifying it. So again, I think for our side, especially if we're cooking for guests, we want to make sure that we're giving them, you know, a clear experience and make sure that they feel safe. So we do it in ways that we only know we can measure it. So we were a little ahead of some of the cooking, you know, with cannabis. There's definitely plenty of people in California on the West Coast that were doing it, but as far as like in our immediate region, there weren't a lot. And so I think bringing the hospitality side of what we did through hotels and restaurants from a customer's perspective, right? Like we always view when people come in, what's it going to smell like? What's it going to look like? What's the texture, right, of all of these dishes? I mean, that's what we're already doing. Now we pair that with cannabis and an experience. We have repeat customers, right? And that's what makes us successful.